Some of you may recognize this as a common Dewalt pole saw with one extension installed. And this back here, this is my version. A little longer than the entire pole saw with extension as it comes out of the box. I basically just added a piece of 10-foot, 1.25 or 1.5 conduit. Look at that, 1.25 by 10 feet of conduit. So that should allow me to disconnect either the regular head or go big or go home and connect the extension and saw to this unit, which makes the whole thing about twice the length that it's supposed to be. And once it's at that point, it's about 4 times as difficult to operate. So I can completely see why Dewalt would not have wanted to make that a commercially or consumer available product. Using this standard Dewalt saw with extension, I was able to prune off all of these limbs from this pine tree. Of course, all of that pruning only got us about 1/3 to 1/4 of the way up the tree. Only about 1/3 of the way up there. I'm gonna go portrait mode just so I can capture the whole tree. Yeah. So that's as much as we were able to do with the standard saw out of the box. Let's see how much further up we can get using the extended pole saw. Now we're going to clean up the workspace and probably add one of the factory extensions to the whole mix, making the thing harder to operate, but giving us, 3 more feet of reach. That's probably why they don't actually make this as a consumer product. No harm, no foul. At this point, I'm satisfied with how many limbs have been cut off of the bottom of it. I probably cut off more than needed to be cut, but here we are. So I've now got a pole line rigged up there to come along so that I can keep tension on it while I go and make my notch cuts and get the whole thing to fall down in about the right place. It seems that this Japanese maple tree right here might be within range of the top of the tree. So we're going to try and drop it pretty much right on where my pole line is going. You You can see I'm using a really small tree as an anchor, but that should be okay because we're using the base of it. Connected to some trucker's chain, connected to this come along, which is connected to a ratcheting tie-down strap.
Connected to the red thing. The red thing's connected to my wristwatch.
Definitely not made for this purpose, but should be strong enough for what we're doing.
Uh-oh.
Oh, going up there to a bunch of vehicle tow straps. Tied down at the base. Yeah, so this should be about 42, maybe 45 feet tall. Yeah, let's see if we can drop it safely. Didn't even need to touch the pole line. That went smoother than I thought. So that was all done using a 58 volt Echo chainsaw. Now I gotta go buck up some firewood. So here's the aftermath. I left the stump very high, partly because I'm gonna cut it down a little bit to use as a chopping block back here. And also because I didn't want it to fall very far because it could hit some of the trees and garden stuff up there. The hinge wood worked out perfectly. They came to being right about within plane of each other. Got a little bit thinner on this side than the other side. Apparently there was still a ton of pine cones hanging on up at the top. So now we have every pine cone you could ever hope for right in the middle of our lawn. You can also see that it landed almost directly on top of my pole line. Yeah, it came a little bit off angle, but still perfectly within the safe range.